to you, buddy, with that red tap. I can't believe you're gonna do my boy Jaden like this three times. Why you gotta do it? He's an angel. He's just an angel. He's just trying to help. He's just trying to help. He's trying to get you to use your mind with his raps. He's got smart raps. He's a smart rap man. You're a jerk. You're a big old jerk. And I hate you. I hate you.
Hi everyone, Huthany Mid-Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Jaden Smith album, ERYS. This is the latest full-length album from actor, rapper, singer, producer, hip-hop visionary, Jaden Smith. Starting out as a famous actor and the son of rapper and actor Will Smith, Jaden Smith started in the rap game with a pretty high profile. Way higher than I think any artist would have been given the quality of the music he was releasing right off the bat with the Cool Tapes Volume 1 and 2. But despite the negative reactions to what Jaden was doing at this point in his career, he was slowly gaining a very passionate fan base. People who seemed enamored with his fame, with his image, with his naive but ambitious artistic vision. We eventually reached a point where Jaden's singles, EPs, and mixtapes built him up into album mode. And that is when we got Sire in 2017. A record that to this day, every once in a while, I do get reactions and opinions telling me, dude, you were too harsh on that record. But going back, I'm still not really seeing what exactly I was missing on that project, as it doesn't really feel like I'm listening to a rapper, but someone LARPing as a rapper, blatantly ripping off tons of ideas from his contemporaries as he jumps from one track to the next. Now granted, some of the instrumentals on Sire were pretty great. The budget on this record was clearly high. It's not a cheap album, but it is a very misguided and somewhat derivative album. Going into ERYS, I was hoping that Jaden's writing and his singing, his rapping, his songing would have gotten better, but that's most likely not going to be the case, especially since when he dropped the Sunset Tapes, a project he put out last year, just a year after Sire. The songs on this thing were way worse on the production side, and the tunes, the ideas, were even more derivative. But now he was borrowing those ideas from other places, namely groups such as Brockhampton. The Sunset Tapes is easily one of the most unflattering projects I've heard this decade. So again, honestly, I would have liked to have gone into ERYS with higher hopes, but I just don't see any reason as to why Jaden would have turned a new leaf artistically in the past few years, especially since these two albums seem very obviously related. They're structured similarly. The title is literally Sire backwards. It is pretty much Sire's spiritual successor. So clearly there was a lot of stuff on Sire that Jaden saw fit to carry over onto ERYS. Stuff he thought warranted repeating, like the numerous references to his song Lost Boy on this LP. Also the fact that the album kicks off with another 4-part song whose titles spell out a color, not blue in this instance, but pink. And pink is actually a pretty cool moment on the album, which is not surprising because in the grander scheme of Sire's track list, blue is one of the better moments on the album too. The opening track, P, kicks off with these weepy pianos and female lead vocals that are very theatrical. It sounds almost like the intro to an Evanescence song. We get some Kanye-inspired twists toward the back end of the track. It's a very weird mix of ideas that I partially think are super corny, but also kind of admirable, as the production is pretty nice and I can't really think of any artist out there right now that's going for this particular combination of ideas. It definitely gets better as it progresses, but my main issue with this song is that it sets this tone of epic extravagance that the rest of the record just doesn't really deliver on, both sonically and substantively. Following after is a straight rap track with a killer instrumental, very peppy trap percussion complemented with these plinky and deflating synth tones. At various points, the instrumental goes kind of lush with these very subtle layers of harmony. What's less impressive though is Jaden's very flat, one-dimensional rapping. He's also placed a distortion effect on his voice on this one. It's like he thinks he's the Gen Z Kanye, but he's executing it with some stale Drake swag, and of course a side of wokeness woven into the lyrics every once in a while. The song N is a lot grander instrumentally and stylistically. It's actually pretty immense and powerful, but I mostly would just like to hear a better rapper on this, because all Jaden does over this track is just deliver more nearly monotone bars that just sound convinced of their own genius as Jaden is rapping that people don't get it, people don't get these raps, people don't get deep raps, they just want a flick of the wrist. What's also kind of weird is that for a majority of the time, Jaden is rapping in this very deep voice. We don't actually hear him rapping in his normal register until the back end of the song. And whatever he's doing to get his voice to sound this way sounds especially artificial during the second verse, where his rapping just sounds really awkward and clunky and ugh. A lot of pink shine when I'm running around. And I'm still waiting on the 100th hour. I guess the reasoning behind Jaden pitching his voice this way is that he is rapping in character at various points on this album from the standpoint of ERYS, which was also a thing he did on Sire, as Sire was a character too, but the plot and the message of that record was so convoluted it was difficult to follow that element of the project. I guess in a way that is a bit more focused on ERYS. And I guess this ERYS person of Jaden's imagination is supposed to be this stereotypical, materialistic, not deep at all rapper. But I guess he's also someone who has these ambitions of becoming a leader in a futuristic world where LA lays in partial ruin. And while I guess all of this is cool in concept, there are moments on this record where it is confusing as to whether Jaden is rapping from the standpoint of himself or ERYS, because occasionally the messaging seems mismatched. As there's plenty of run-of-the-mill rap shit Jaden seems to say in his own voice on this album. And when Jaden is clearly rapping from the standpoint of ERYS, like in the midst of the track Mission, he's just spitting a lot of stuff that I think he would have no problem just rapping in his own voice from his own standpoint. So the creative barrier between Jaden and this character I don't think is that thick. Honestly, it all just seems like a cringier take on what J. Cole was doing with his deep-voiced alter ego on his last full-length album, KOD. The song K, in my view, is a gorgeous finish to these four parts. The song is a very dramatic ballad that mixes elements of rock and hip-hop. Jaden's vocal harmonies on the first leg are actually pretty great. Generally, I would say his singing has improved on this LP a bit. The track has a good progression, a killer refrain. Suddenly it transitions into a beat switch that the instrumental sounds like it's sampling a pair of hair clippers. It goes hard as hell, so it's a really fun ending to this four-part moment. But once we get past this point, once we get past this very epic, extravagant, larger-than-life intro, how quickly do you think Jaden starts to nosedive this thing? It's actually right away with the song Noise, featuring Tyler, the Creator. Now, there are elements of the song that I like, that I think are decent, but Tyler's feature is not very focused at all. Sounds like something he would have rapped in 2013, 2014. But really the worst thing about this song is that it is a totally unashamed and blatant, obvious, and just like bold-faced ripoff of Travis Scott. It's like Jaden basically heard Astroworld and said, "This is what I need to do. This is what I need to copy. I need to pursue the same bassy, effect-heavy, psych trap that Travis Scott is doing on his last album. That is my artistic vision now, his artistic vision." Maybe he tosses in a few more instrumental bells and whistles, auto-tune vocal harmonies, some dystopian effects to get it to sound a little different, a little darker, a little weird. And this is not the only track that blatantly rips off Travis Scott on the album, not by a long shot. We have the track Again, which essentially sees Jaden going Smitho mode with its trippy transitions and hypnotic synthesizers and washes of reverb. Also the auto-tuned ad-libs calling out in the background. Really? Are You Serious? There's also a dreamy, sad vocal progression toward the end of the track where the instrumental turns super mellow, and it sounds like something off of a Joji record. It's like he can't think up a single idea on his own, or even change any of the ideas he's taking and turn them into his own. The tracklist basically delivers one Travis Scott ripoff after another up to the point where we hit Fire Department, where Jaden treats listeners to this punk rock detour. And ultimately, while this is fine, it's not like groups such as Horror haven't already done this to a degree way better. Miraculously, Jaden pulls off another Travis Scott ripoff with the track Mission that actually kind of sounds like a decent Travis Scott song, a song that I would have loved to have heard Travis record. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. The amount of tracks that just basically sound like Astroworld leftovers on this record is astonishing. It is mind-blowing. I can't believe that an artist of Jaden's profile would blow so much money on just trying to sound like the last Travis Scott record. And the ripoffs keep coming, but I will try to, past this point, focus a bit more on the songs on the record where Jaden switches it up a little bit stylistically. We do have the track Summertime in Paris featuring his sister Willow Smith, and the vocals on the chorus here are light and heartwarming and cute. It's mostly a blend of R&B and acoustic balladry. It sort of sounds like something XXXTentacion would have done on his last record, except extended out to the point where it becomes stale. The song Blackout is absolutely a torture chamber, another slow burner in the track list here, where Jaden effectively is just moaning over this hard-hitting beat. The percussion on this track is gigantic and just completely dwarfs everything else in the mix, which is just so washed out in reverb. It's difficult to make heads or tails of it. It's like a horrible fusion of hip-hop, alternative R&B, and like those really bad beach indie bands that use effects to distract from the lack of an interesting song idea. Jaden breaks into a very similar moment in the second half of the song Pain, which is worth mentioning not only because Jaden once more uses way too many effects on this track, but also this is one of many instances on this album where Jaden will end a track off by detouring into some random moment that seems to think it's deeper and more interesting than it actually is. The closing track, the title track, basically presents the same problem as it works in several different parts, none of which really connect in a significant or a meaningful way. It's like they're all just randomly segueing into something else. We get some rap rock, then we get more acoustic alt R&B balladry, then we get a weird semi-ambient spoken word passage at the very end that's actually kind of neat. But even these moments on the album do feel like they're slightly derivative, like Jaden is borrowing from Brockhampton's Bareface or even Frank Ocean's Endless. The track On My Own Miraculously is actually a pretty good song, even if it is hella derivative of that Graduation 808s era Kanye, right down to the flow, right down to the groove of the instrumental. Kid Cudi kills it on the hook though. His vocal performance on this one is flames. And there's not really much more I can remark on with this record. It's not very good. I didn't like it very much, and I'm not surprised. Not only because many of the conceptual and compositional flaws of Sire carried over onto this record. And yeah, Jaden's lyrics can get pretty corny, like that one line about people switching and how he's not playing Nintendo. Jesus Christ. It's not as bad as the washing dirty dishes lines off of Sire, but still not all that great. And once more, Jaden seems convinced he's making music that's deeper than it actually is. But I digress. My main issue with this record is, why would I want to spend an hour listening to some dude who bought his way into the rap game pretend to be Travis Scott for like a dozen or so tracks? I can't imagine a bigger waste of time. I do admire some of what Jaden was able to achieve here instrumentally. I do admire his very clear ambitions to make music that sounds larger than life. But the likability of this LP kind of starts and ends there, as he's still an average singer, a subpar rapper and lyricist. For someone who's blatantly ripping off these auteurs such as Kanye and Travis Scott, he's not much of an ideas guy. He's more of a I'll borrow your idea guy and just basically copy and paste it without really doing much to alter it. Yeah, there are a few decent hooks here, a couple of decent tracks, but that's about it. The rest of what's here is either very hard to sit through or it is grossly unimaginative to the point where it's offensive. I'm feeling a strong 3 to a light 4 on this one. Tran. Zishin, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Jaden Smith, ERYS, forever.